You know that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's it's really powerful, right? It feels like pure grit.
Oh, absolutely. It's got that uplifting, tough message.
But like when you really stop and think about it, is it always true? I mean, what does stronger actually mean there?
Exactly. Do we just automatically level up after every hardship, or is it, well, a bit more complicated than that?
Yeah, more complicated feels right. And that complexity, that's what we're really diving into today. Welcome to this deep dive. We've got a stack of really interesting sources here, academic papers, health guides, you name it.
All sorts.
And we're going to try and unpack this whole idea of resilience. What is it really? Is it fixed, like eye color, or can we, build it?
And how do things like actual hard times versus positive stuff shape our ability to cope and even thrive? That's the mission.
Right. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. Resilience. What are we actually talking about from a psychological view? It feels like more than just, bouncing back.
That's a great starting point. Yeah. Because you're right, it is more. The American Psychological Association, they define it as both a process and an outcome.
A process and an outcome. Okay.
Yeah, it's the process of successfully adapting to difficult stuff, to adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, significant stress.
Yeah.
And the outcome is that successful adaptation.
So it's about flexibility.
Exactly. Mental, emotional, behavioral flexibility, being able to adjust. And Dr. Amit Sood adds another layer. He says it's the ability to withstand adversity, bounce back, and grow.
The grow part, that feels key.
It is. It's not just enduring, it's actively evolving, learning from it.
So is it something you're just born with? Some people just seem naturally resilient? Or is it more like a muscle you can train?
That's one of the most hopeful parts of the research, actually. It's definitely a skill set, something you can develop over time.
Really? Not fixed?
Not fixed at all.
Yeah.
Mustafa Sarkar's work, for example, differentiates between, well, he calls it robust resilience. That's kind of maintaining your well-being while under pressure.
Okay, like keeping your cool.
Sort of, yeah. And then rebound resilience, which is more that quick return to normal after something knocks you off balance.
Gotcha.
And the main thing is, psychological resilience isn't static. It changes. It can absolutely be enhanced.
The common narrative often paints all adversity as just bad. Something to avoid, protect ourselves and our kids from.
Right, like bubble wrap the world.
Yeah. But these sources, they seem to hint at something else, something more nuanced, like not all challenges are the same.
That's a really crucial distinction. Research highlighted in Western News makes this clear. We need to separate general childhood adversity from adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs.
ACs, I've heard that term. Those sound serious.
They are. ACEs are specific, deeply traumatic experiences. Things like abuse, physical, emotional, sexual neglect, violence in the home, parental separation due to imprisonment, or even the death of a parent. These are severe.
And they have long-term effects.
Definitely. They significantly increase the risk for lifelong problems. PTSD, depression, anxiety, sure, but also physical health issues like obesity, diabetes, heart disease. They leave a real mark.
Okay, so those are ACEs. What's this general adversity then? How is that different?
General adversity is broader. Think family financial stress, maybe childhood illnesses, parents arguing a lot but not necessarily abusively, moving schools frequently, things that are challenging, yes, and require coping.
But not necessarily traumatic in that same deep way.
Exactly. They could lead to trauma depending on the context and support, but they aren't inherently traumatic like ACEs. It's a different category of difficulty.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. If not all adversity is automatically bad, what's this upside the research talks about? How can challenges actually help us?
Well, it connects back to building those resilient skills, some adaptive skills, things like self-regulation, problem solving. They actually seem to require some experience with manageable adversity to develop properly.
Like you need practice.
Kind of, yeah. There was that Stanford study mentioned in Western News. It found when parents viewed their kids' failures, like, not making the soccer team or getting a bad grade on a project.
Things that feel like the end of the world to a kid sometimes.
Right. But if the parents framed it as an opportunity for growth, not a catastrophe, the kids started adopting that mindset too.
So turning setbacks into learning moments.
Precisely. It helps develop a growth mindset, teamwork skills, resilience, how to handle disappointment. It's like stress inoculation.
Stress inoculation. Like a vaccine.
Exactly like a vaccine. You get exposed to a small, manageable dose of the stressor, a challenge you can actually cope with, and it builds up your capacity, your immunity, so to speak.
So when a bigger stressor hits later?
You're better prepared. Low to moderate levels of past adversity, the kind you overcame, can actually be protective against future stress.
Yeah.
It builds those coping muscles.
That's a really powerful idea. So, okay, if we can build resilience, what are the actionable steps? What actually makes someone more resilient? How do we, do it?
Dr. Mustafa Sarkar's work on mental fortitude training gives us a really good framework. He breaks it down into 3 core areas.
Okay, what's the first?
First is personal qualities. These are the internal psychological factors that protect you. And it's useful here to distinguish between personality characteristics, which are, generally more stable, harder to change.
It's like being naturally introverted or extroverted.
Yeah, things like that. Versus psychological skills, things like optimism, self-awareness, emotional regulation, which are much more malleable, more trainable.
So the focus is on the skills we can actually develop.
Exactly. The goal is to optimize those qualities to better withstand stressors. But importantly, recognizing everyone still has a breaking point. It's not about becoming invincible.
Right. Realism is key. Okay, personal qualities. What's number 2?
Number 2 is the facilitative environment. This is about the setting you're in, your workplace, your family, your community. Does it actively foster resilience?
How does an environment do that?
It's about finding this crucial balance between challenge and support.
Challenge and support.
Okay.
Okay.
So challenge means having high expectations, pushing you a bit, giving constructive developmental feedback, not letting you just coast.
Right, pushing you to grow.
And support means enabling you to develop those personal qualities we talked about, providing resources, promoting learning, giving encouragement and motivational feedback.
So it's not just throwing you in the deep end, but also not coddling you.
Precisely. You need both. High challenge and high support. That's the sweet spot, the facilitative environment. Environments that are low challenge, low support are stagnant. High challenge, low support are just unrelenting and burn people out. High support, low challenge can be comfortable, but doesn't build resilience.
That makes a lot of sense. I can picture that in like a good coaching relationship or a healthy team dynamic.
Absolutely. And the third area.
Yes, the third.
The third area is developing a challenge mindset. This is huge. It's about how you interpret pressure and stress.
Your internal narrative.
Exactly. Positively evaluating pressure, regulating your thoughts, consciously shifting negative appraisals. I can't handle this into more constructive ones. This is tough. What's my first step?
Yeah.
The U.S. Army actually uses similar cognitive behavioral techniques to build resilience in soldiers. It's about changing your reaction pattern.
So internal tools, the right external environment, and the right mindset. That's a pretty comprehensive model. Are there other ways to think about these building blocks?
Yeah, definitely. Other experts offer slightly different lenses. Dr. Amit Sood, he talks about 5 principles: gratitude, compassion, acceptance, meaning, and forgiveness.
Those sound more values-based.
They have that quality, yes.
Yeah.
Focusing on core human values as anchors. And the APA also points to key factors like your general outlook on the world, your social connections, huge one there, and the specific coping strategies you use. They all overlap in theme, just different ways of organizing the ideas.
And thinking about kids and teens again, you mentioned Sarkar's work, but are there frameworks specifically for helping younger people build this?
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Ken Ginsberg developed the 7 C's of resilience for children and adolescents.
7 C's. Okay, what are they?
They are competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control.
Competence and confidence. They sound linked, almost like chicken and egg.
That's a great point. How do you think they interact?
Well, maybe you need to feel competent at something first before you can feel genuinely confident about it.
You nailed it. That's the key insight. Real confidence often stems from actual competence. It's not just empty praise. It's about giving kids opportunities to master skills, solve problems, see that they can do things.
Hey, I figured that out.
Exactly. That builds genuine confidence. And that, in turn, links to control, the feeling that you can influence what happens to you. These C's really weave together personal strengths and the importance of supportive relationships and opportunities.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We talk a lot about managing negative emotions, but what about positive ones? Happiness, joy, gratitude. How do they fit into this resilience picture?
That's a fantastic question. And positive affect PA, as researchers call it, plays a really interesting dual role.
Dual role. How so?
Okay, so first, experiencing positive emotions can be an outcome or an indicator of resilience. If you face a stressor and you experience, say, smaller drops in your positive mood, or you bounce back to feeling good more quickly.
That shows you're more resilient.
Exactly. It demonstrates resilience in action. And things that help promote this include internal traits we've mentioned, like optimism or self-compassion, and skills like cognitive reappraisal, reframing those negative thoughts.
Like finding the silver lining?
Sometimes, yeah, or just seeing it from a less catastrophic angle.
Hmm.
And external resources help too: strong friendships, family support, even things like regular family meals or volunteering. They all bolster that ability to maintain or regain positive feelings.
Okay, so PA as an outcome, what's the other side of the coin?
The other role is PA as a resilience resource itself. This means having higher levels of positive affect before a stressor hits can actually protect you, buffer you from its negative impact.
So being generally happy or optimistic beforehand helps you weather the storm.
That's the idea. Research shows, for example, that high life satisfaction can lessen the negative impact of ACEs. Optimism has been linked to lower suicide risk after trauma. Positive affect can even buffer against negative feelings and physical pain. It's like having an emotional reserve tank.
Wow. So cultivating positive emotions isn't just nice, it's actually protective.
It seems to be, yes, a key part of the resilience toolkit.
We've talked a lot about psychological and emotional resilience. Are there other types we should be thinking about? Does resilience apply in other domains?
Yes, the concept is broader than just our inner world. Our sources touch on a few key types. There's psychological resilience, which we've mostly focused on, that mental fortitude, coping with uncertainty.
Right.
Then emotional resilience, specifically managing your emotions in healthy ways during stress. Closely related, but distinct. Then there's physical resilience. This is your body's ability to adapt and recover from physical challenges, like illness, injury, even intense training. Lifestyle factors: sleep, nutrition, exercise play a big role here.
How well your body bounces back.
Exactly. And finally, there's community resilience. This is about groups, neighborhoods, towns, organizations, their collective ability to respond to and recover from large-scale shocks, like natural disasters, economic crises, or even pandemics.
So resilience operates on multiple levels, from individual biology up to whole communities.
Precisely. It's a multifaceted concept.
This all sounds, honestly, quite empowering. Like there's a clear path to becoming stronger, better able to handle life. But I have to ask, how solid is all this? Is resilience really as common or as achievable as it sometimes sounds? Are we maybe overstating it?
That is such an important question to ask, and it brings us to a really critical point, discussed by researchers like Inferna and J.O. Wickram. They talk about the growth illusion.
The growth illusion. Okay,
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, that powerful cultural narrative, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is really pervasive. But when you look closely at the empirical evidence, there's often a disconnect.
How so?
A lot of the earlier studies that found high rates of resilience or post-traumatic growth relied heavily on retrospective self-assessments.
Meaning people looking back and saying how much they grew.
Exactly. You ask someone months or years after a traumatic event, how much do you think you've grown from this? The problem is our memories aren't perfect. People might misremember how they were before the event, or they might report growth because it helps them cope now, even if their actual personality hasn't fundamentally changed.
So it's more about how they feel about their growth rather than objective change.
It can be, yes. And there were methodological issues, too. Some statistical models used in older studies had, well, restrictive assumptions built in that tended to inflate the number.
Inflate? How significantly?
Quite significantly in some cases. For example, one analysis initially reported 81% resilience to job loss. But when they reran the analysis, using more flexible models, without those restrictive assumptions, the estimate dropped to around 48%.
Wow, that's a massive difference from over 3/4 to less than half.
It is. And another issue was a unidimensional focus, measuring resilience based on just one outcome, like, say, life satisfaction.
But resilience affects more than just one thing, right?
Exactly. It's multidimensional. So take spousal loss. If you just looked at life satisfaction, maybe 66% looked resilient. But when researchers look across 5 outcomes, life satisfaction, positive affect, negative affect, general health, physical functioning, only about 8% showed resilience across all 5 domains.
Only 8%. That paints a very different picture.
It really does. It suggests that struggling after a major loss or trauma is actually far more common than widespread multi-domain resilience.
So what does this mean for how we should think about resilience research and even our own experiences?
It means we need to be more circumspect, more critical of broad claims about automatic growth. We need more rigorous research methods, especially prospective longitudinal designs.
Prospective longitudinal, What does that mean in simple terms?
It means tracking people before an adversity happens, if possible, and then following them closely over time with frequent check-ins, say, every few weeks or months after the event, not just asking them once, years later.
So you see the actual journey unfold, not just rely on memory.
Precisely. It gives a much more accurate picture of how people actually adapt, struggle, and maybe grow over time.
Hmm.
And for us personally, it suggests we should be cautious about that growth illusion in ourselves and others. Struggling doesn't mean you're not strong. It's often the norm. Interventions aren't always needed, and sometimes just acknowledging the difficulty is the most resilient thing.
That feels important. Less pressure to pretend we're always growing stronger from everything. Okay, we've looked at what resilience is, how to build it, the caveats. What about differences between people? Does resilience look the same for everyone, or do factors like age or gender play a role?
They definitely can. Social factors matter. As that Western news piece noted, things like socioeconomic status and race can influence how adversity impacts families and how much resilience they demonstrate, likely due to access to resources and exposure to different types of stressors. White and more advantaged families sometimes showed more resilience.
That makes sense. Resources buffer stress. What about age? Does our capacity for resilience change as we get older?
There's some fascinating research on that. One study looked at life challenges and personality continuity in young adults like 13 to 19 versus older adults around 65 to 71.
Okay, big age gap. What did they find?
Young adults actually reported more life challenges, things like friendship conflicts, breakups, school stress, and importantly, these challenges had a stronger negative impact on their self-esteem compared to the older group.
So setbacks hit harder when you're younger and still figuring out who you are.
It seems so, at least in terms of self-worth. The older adults, even though they face their own significant challenges like losing friends, health changes, sleep issues, they reported greater overall self-concept clarity and higher self-esteem.
Interesting. Why would that be?
It aligns with this idea of resilient aging. Older adults have often weathered more storms, developed coping strategies, and perhaps become more focused on maintaining a stable sense of self, who they are.
They have more perspective.
Perhaps. And crucially, the study found that for older adults only, perceiving their personality as continuous and stable over time, feeling like I'm still me, despite changes, acted as a key internal resource. It helped them maintain self-esteem and clarity even when facing difficulties. They could fit the challenge into their existing life story.
That's really insightful, having that strong sense of self as an anchor. What about gender differences? Are there clear patterns there?
Well, the picture seems a bit mixed, honestly. Based on the everyday health source, historically, women have sometimes shown remarkable resilience in crises like famines, surviving in greater numbers.
Okay, suggesting a kind of female resilience advantage in some extreme situations.
Possibly. But then, another study found something different regarding widowhood. For women, resilience didn't seem to protect against the increase in depression after losing a spouse as effectively as it did for men in the same situation.
So it might depend on the specific stressor or the specific outcome you're measuring.
Exactly. It could be related to social support networks, economic impacts, societal roles. It's complex. It really highlights that we can't make simple, sweeping statements about gender and resilience. It likely varies a lot depending on context. More research needed there for sure.
We have really covered a huge amount of ground today, from defining resilience, beyond just bouncing back to understanding that not all adversity is the same,
Right, distinguishing ACEs from general challenges.
to looking at concrete ways to build it, those personal skills, the right environment, that challenge mindset, and then the role of positive emotions.
Both as an outcome and a resource.
And even acknowledging the growth illusion and the differences across age and maybe gender. It really feels like resilience isn't some rare superpower.
Yeah, not at all. It's a deeply human capacity.
Yeah.
And cultivating it, as we've seen, is a journey. It's not about trying to avoid stress entirely, we know now, that might actually hinder growth.
Right. We need some manageable challenges.
Exactly. It's more about developing those inner strengths, self-awareness, optimism, reframing skills, and knowing how to lean on and build our external resources, like those strong connections and supportive, challenging environments.
So for you listening, what does this all boil down to? I think this deep dive really shows that we all have this potential, this capacity to face life's curveballs, the big ones and the small ones, and maybe even grow from them, though not automatically.
It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. So thinking about everything we've discussed, here's something to chew on. What single, maybe small step could you take this week Maybe it's practicing one of those skills like gratitude or reframing a negative thought. Or maybe it's strengthening an external support, reaching out to a friend, looking for a mentor, just one small step, knowing that even facing and overcoming those seemingly minor challenges can build your capacity to thrive when bigger things come along.